Hello, this is my positionality. My name is Mark Feltz. That's an S, not a 5. I'm sorry about that. But to kind of give you a preview of what it's all about, here we are. That was a Father's Day present. Regarding specifics in my positionality, I'm going to start with being a UNT grad student in the College of Education. What is particularly beneficial of this is that I understand grad life problems, and I'm not exactly new, but I'm still kind of learning the program, and so I can identify with some things, but other things I haven't quite experienced yet, so I'm learning, but I'm kind of in the middle of it. Another benefit is that outside of academia, in particular with other teachers that aren't in higher education every day, it's looked upon as a good and noble thing to do. And so I guess that increases my social status or perception of social status. And third benefit would be the time. I'm not a teacher every day anymore, and so the time and the room and the space to kind of look at issues in education, very beneficial in terms of understanding the big picture of education. Challenges. I may have a UNT lens of graduate school, and so that may make it hard to understand other students from other universities because no university is the same in their experience. And I've got a cold, so I'm kind of working on it. So I'm benefiting from a runny nose as well. Challenges continued would be a power imbalance with people outside of academia that don't quite understand what graduate school is all about or how it really matters in the grand scheme of education. And lastly, I think it's my separation of the everyday classroom that might lead me to look at education in different ways, because I'm not exactly on the front lines anymore. I'm kind of in the back looking at the overall battlefield of learning. Next is a more personal thing. I'm a white guy. I'm a male, 32. I'm a Christian. I'm a husband. And I'm a dad, and that's the best thing I've ever been called. As you can see, most of the items I've used for my artifacts are my son's, but still, it's kind of dad-centric. Also, I'm an American national, so go America. Benefits. Some people would say, how do you not benefit from being all those things? So I've included power of the dominant social class, which perhaps gives me access to some areas of inquiry that other people might not have. Next would be a recognition of issues that are concerning adult learners. And so I understand, and sorry for the shakiness, I understand what it might be like teaching adult learners and how that might be different from teaching children or adolescents. And thirdly, I benefit from being a gender minority in education, which is kind of unique because most of these things enables me to see things through a majority lens. But in education, everybody wants to know, so what do you coach? And I don't coach, and so it's kind of odd that I'm a gender minority in education specifically, because it allows me to understand what marginality might be. Some challenges associated with my white maleness, 32ness, and dadness, etc. might be alienation from other classes of people, whether it be race, gender, religion, whatever. And this might cause an inability of mine to identify with those people and their experiences, which would be very hard to write if I don't understand it. So it's kind of a limited access to their knowledge and reality. Lastly, I've listed having children gives, I say it gives admittance to a secret world of no sleep. And also, no sleep is an obvious challenge, but in higher education specifically, for those people that don't have children, they don't quite understand what it's like to go weeks on end without sleep and still have to perform at a graduate level. And so, without griping too much about it, it's kind of hard to identify with people that don't have these things to come home to and step on in the middle of the night when you're up looking for Tylenol and things. So that's a personal positionality. More professional. I'm a former high school teacher. I worked at Wichita Falls High School. This gives me access to lived educational experiences, and it obviously creates a concern for the world of education. That's a benefit because I'm interested, I'm concerned, and that's a prerequisite for any decent qualitative researcher, I think. Also, it gives me the ability to recognize and understand others' issues in education, specifically that of teachers. And so teachers are often the linchpin and the lynch object of the problems in education. And that experience of mine being a teacher enables me to ask better questions, to understand the lived experiences of other teachers. Also, being a high school teacher, I think particularly positions me in an interesting link between high school and the challenges of the university, in that I can kind of see where things might be going and understand as parents and students make the transition from secondary ed to higher ed. And so when I'm interviewing somebody regarding their experiences, I know that particular point in time is critical. I would say that. Some challenges associated with being a former high school teacher obviously would be secondary education experiences only, so it would be hard for me to identify with those people in lower levels of education. Also, I may not quite understand the private school sector or the administration's point of view because I've never worked in a private school and I've never been an administrator. So that would perhaps be a hard subject to pursue with someone. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, I'm no longer in high school. I'm not in the classroom every day. And as you know, in education, things change on a daily basis. And so I feel like in some cases I'm being left behind and my experiences are sort of old stories that may or may not be relevant today. So that would be a particular challenge for me. Also, back to the personal side of things, I live in Montague County. That's 60 miles away from UNT. So I'm a commuter. There's my little plane. Benefits, I put quiet streets leads to really good studying. That's true. That's a benefit. So I may know the material as I'm supposed to know it because I've had sufficient room to learn it, or at least I better. I'm running out of excuses. Secondly, not living in Denton allows me to see the graduate experience not from a Denton-centric perspective. And I know that in grad school it's consuming to the point that we kind of get myopic in our views that our little world is the whole world. And so me driving away perhaps allows me to not really focus on that small world only. And then lastly, I understand the commuter life. I understand the challenges associated with it and the time that it takes and perhaps the road rage and other things associated with commuter life, so I can identify with that if I'm interviewing someone. The challenges, I'm not on campus every day. And like I said before, things change on a daily basis, so I may not be up to date with everyday experiences. Also, I've experienced a little bit of a loss of social capital, especially after after night class. When professors and other students want to go somewhere and get coffee or a drink or something, and the politics of the social world really come into play, I often miss out on that because I get home so late and I have to drive so far. And then thirdly, a challenge would be money. It's expensive to buy a car. It's expensive to pay for gas. It's expensive to drive 2 hours every day I come to campus. I also added a bonus one in there for you UNT people. The parking and transportation office and the parking Nazis are their own specific challenge that may or may not lead to World War III at UNT. Okay, moving on. I'm a graduate assistant in the Department of Teacher Ed and Admin. There's my t-shirt for the department. The benefits of this would perhaps give me access to professors, deans, and administrative officials that I might not otherwise be able to easily access, which is probably annoying for them, but really beneficial for me selfishly. Second, I have an on-campus office, and so if I need to use a space to prepare for my teaching or even studying, I have something on campus right there that is separate from the classroom that I take classes in. And then thirdly, I have a first-hand experiences of perhaps what new professors in academia might go through, because I kind of see the power struggles of assistant professors versus associate professors, and I think the GA experience is really good in providing you with a hands-on experience of what academia is really like, and other people may not be able to identify with that are still teaching in schools. Okay, the challenges of being a GA. I'm not in school anymore every day, but I spend my time talking about school and learning about K through 12 education, and so I'm kind of talking at a removed position there, and I don't exactly understand on a day-to-day basis what it's like anymore. Even though it hasn't been that long, it's still been long enough to be able to distance me. Secondly, higher education views K through 12 education differently than the people in K through 12 education. And currently, I'm undergoing the transition between a K through 12 centric view to that of a higher education view. And that's led to some conflict of thought and conflict of not particularly interest, but conflict of understanding, I would say. And it would be hard to understand those people who haven't quite made the transition or perhaps never seek to. And then lastly, the challenges of being a GA, well known. I don't know how to remain a GA for years and years and years and maintain my taco habit, because I love tacos, but the presence of tacos is perhaps indirectly proportional to the presence of graduate assistant life. And again, it's purely financial. So there that is. And lastly, since I'm talking about finances, I'm dependent upon financial aid and a wife as a breadwinner. And I've written right there that I never really understood inequality of pay before the doc program, because I was the breadwinner and I never really saw how people's lives are affected by the inequality of pay. But now I'm living it, and you could say I'm not exactly happy about it, and I would like to change it if I could, but I definitely understand people in the same situation where the wife or the mother is the breadwinner, because women have different social capital, which leads to different financial capital, period. The benefits of this is I have an avenue to be able to go back to school, and that's a huge blessing. A lot of people don't, and I understand no matter how hard they want to pull themselves up, that they just don't have an avenue to pursue their goals. Secondly, I'm married to somebody who is willing to sacrifice for me to chase those goals. And again, I know everybody is not lucky enough to have a partner or a spouse or even a chance at having other people to sacrifice for you to chase your goals. And lastly, I have the ability to understand grad student financial challenges. And so when we talk about when's financial aid going to come through, when am I going to be able to eat again, I totally understand that. And that I have my wallet here and I have no money. That's spit up. So that's kind of my life right there. That's my whole positionality. But the challenge is obviously the financial issues are more debt, loans, more debt. Puts a strain on my family resources, which personal life strain leads to more difficulty of learning. And so it's perhaps more difficult for those people who are dependent upon financial aid. And lastly, the link between the university financial trouble at UNT and funding school is kind of unique at UNT. That perhaps is a benefit in terms of knowledge, but it's definitely a challenge in terms of everyday life. So with that, my positionality is laid out here on the floor, and it gives me a very unique view of what others might experience and how I might put my own experience into words. So thank you, and have a wonderful day.